In this episode, my guest is Dominique Jost, head of product at Doist. Doist is a 110 people company behind the famous productivity app Todoist. In this episode, we talk a lot about how as leaders, you can create the space for your team to happily adopt AI tools beyond creating and editing text. We talk a lot about use cases for non-engineers at Doist, examples of Doist people, Doist non-engineers, how they used AI to contribute to the product, how the engineers were a very, very big leverage point and supporting function to create this growth of engagement with AI tools at Doist. He talks about 3 qualities of the people that you have to believe in as well as a leader and how to open the space for everybody to experiment and adopt AI. Enjoy the episode, and as usual, if you have any questions, reach out to me or to Dominic. All right, Dominic, hey, welcome. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, hey, you're a very, very busy person, so thank you very much for taking the time to talking to me about AI adoption journey at Doist. And you please, maybe you introduce yourself first a little bit and the company and what you are responsible at the company, because you might not want to talk about the whole company. Maybe there's just a piece of it, and because Doist has lots of different products, so maybe you want to give the scope for our conversation.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So my name is Dominic. I'm the head of product at Doist. Been at the company for a bit more than 4.5 years. My role is to head product, as the title says. I lead a small team of 4 product managers. Overall, we're about 110 people at Doist, fully remote. So we're spread across the globe. Doist has been around for, I think, 20 years. I'm not sure. I think we had the 20th anniversary. So it's been, almost like a dinosaur in a good way in this space. Fully self-funded. So we don't have any outside investors. We're earning our growth, so to speak. So it's a very honest and simple business, right? We create products that hopefully a lot of professionals and SMBs love, and they pay us money so that we can continue doing that. We currently have 2 products in our portfolio. So the first one is Todoist, which is a task manager that is simply powerful and can be used in your personal life, but then also at work, whether it's within a team or, as an individual within a larger organization. And the second product that we have is Twist, which is a team communications app, which is tailored to teams like ourselves who actually operate remote and async. So it's a lot more thoughtful comms than, say, rapid fire back and forth, with other products that I shall not name.
I was just about to say one. Okay, cool.
No, please.
No,
we need to keep this podcast pure. So
okay. So you have 4 PMs in your team. Are you heading only PMs or also designers or data people or anyone else?
No, I'm just heading product managers. We have a head of product design, platform head. So we're very functionally organized. Given our size and the number of products that we have, it kind of works.
Okay, cool. All right. So, and then I ask you for a reason for having this conversation, right? So I read a lot about you writing how you're using AI at Doist. And a couple of months ago, I read a post by you saying, hey, our product manager just ship code to production. That's easy. It's cool. And I'm like, okay, something's going on there. Tell me more. Would you maybe please start with sharing a bit, when did you start to adopt AI or use AI in some way at Doist? When was that? Where are you now? And how did it go? Tell me a bit about the journey.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I actually had to look this up. The very first time AI was mentioned at Doist was 10 years ago. So in 2 days, the very first post about AI will have its 10th anniversary. So Amir, who is the CEO and founder of Doist, wrote this piece about the foundations, I think he called it foundations or pillars. He had I think about 7 of them. And one of them was AI, where he essentially outlined how AI/machine learning will become core to the success of, any sort of productivity tool, which is what we do at Doist. And yeah, AI would need to be a core part of the experience and not something that should be bolted on. That was, I kid you not, in 2 days, it's going to be the 10th year where he posted this. And obviously throughout the years, he's been referencing that in all his memos. And that was before I joined, right? We actually had a machine learning engineer who, tried to implement certain things. But I would say it took ChatGPT and these frontier models to actually launch these different features for us to start like adopting it, in our day to day in a way that was almost, that was described so many years back. So in a way, like mindset wise, we were always ready, but maybe we didn't have the tech yet to pull this off. So that's like, big picture. It has been like a core part of what we're trying to do. And it's been great seeing what happens when when everybody is empowered to use these tools and to start exploring the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI powered, ways of working. Yeah. So that was 10 years ago. And then, I would say, maybe 2.5-ish years ago, we started implementing, smaller experiments, with integrations and, I guess like did what everybody was doing, right? Just trying to figure out how exactly we can use this tech to enhance our products. But I would say,
is it well, like when you say experimenting and figuring it out, like I imagine a bunch of people sitting in front of the screen and just trying to do something with it. Was it this, or was it more structured as an, okay, now, announcement, we're trying AI, and then here's 1 month of experimentation or this kind of thing? Or was it really more intrinsic and everybody's just hacking and trying?
I think it's kind of, my memory is still a bit vague, but I think it was a mix of different things. One was basically, Amir, our CEO, mandating that, we finally have the tools. So therefore, it's now time to turn that vision into reality. But I think it took a lot of like nudging people, to try out these tools because they were like semi-okay and very expensive. So it wasn't like a super smooth transition from no AI to where we are now. So it did take some pushing and some prodding and some, top-down directive. And also like Amir still writes code every single day, right? He's a CEO and founder. And he writes backend code. He's heavily invested in a lot of features and projects. So yeah, he was part of the crew that led the way and was leading by doing and leading by showing rather than just writing memos. But then, more and more people started picking these tools up. And, I think now, especially in engineering, everybody's is leveraged. And we're seeing this, reach out to more and more functions, whether it's product, whether it's design, customer support. We have people in finance, writing, like generating scripts. We have marketeers using AI to do different things. Yeah, so it's kind of wild. But I would say that started picking up seriously in the last maybe 6 to 12 months. This widespread adoption where our people are opening their terminal, going into Claude Code and, asking the backend source code for questions and treating it like a Wikipedia. So it's quite interesting, to see the range of applications.
Tell me more about that. Oh, wait. I'm jumping already. Wait. I mentioned I will be jumping a lot. I have so many questions already. I'm like, okay, I'll just throw them at you and you tell me what you want, which one you want to answer.
Sure.
Okay. So one question was in my head. You mentioned there was quite a bit of nudging to start using these things. So what are examples of objections that came up and what you as an organization did to help them still be, curious enough to try it out, let's say? That was one question that I had. And then the other question was, you said it just picked up the last 6 to 12 months that others started to using it. How was that? Was that more intrinsic, seeing how cool it works? Was it more like external pressure, seeing on the internet, product managers maybe should start trying to code kind of thing, or like how did that spread? And the third was like this thing about using the backend code as a wiki. Like, how does it work? Tell me more about this. Like, these were the three main questions that just popped up in my head.
All right. So the first question is what we did to get this ball rolling, right? So I don't think there was a lot of like intellectual hesitation, in terms of using LLMs or using AI or, whatever you want to call it. But it's just the nature of change, right? In essence, it's a change management process that everybody goes through. So it just took like classic, like we didn't call it a change management process, but looking back, that's what we, implicitly did, which was sort of paint the picture of what this will allow us to do, and then, help people on that journey, through, I can't remember like all the stages in the classic change management curve, but, you have this massive dip, like this inflated expectations, and then you hit bottom and you realize that, the hype is not real. And then you start building up like more realistic expectations, around this technology. So I think it was just, helping teams and individuals traverse that entire change management curve by showing, it's like somebody did something cool, you show it to the rest of the organization, or you share articles about other companies doing something. And in the beginning, everything was like very developer and engineering focused. Like all the examples that you would see is just like writing code, code here, code there, code everywhere. So I think it first, obviously that means then engineers start picking this up at the beginning, and then you still have the entire organization thinking, all right, like I guess this is just like an engineering thing, and I'll just continue using ChatGPT for editing my specs or, what have you. And, there were a lot of, like we did classic, like internal employee, education. Somebody sees something, you have like a 5-minute lightning talk, you spread the knowledge, and it just started picking up, right?
Cool. So like intrinsically, hey, look, this is cool. I will show you how I did that. And maybe you find it cool as well. Or was it like structured upskilling stuff?
No. I'll be way too much. Like, no.
Okay.
No. It wasn't super structured. It was really this is cool, we should do this. And then just repeating that message every single day,
Okay, cool.
And I think Amir did a great job of just insisting that, hey, this is like, there's no going back, right? We need to adopt this technology, even if it feels like a beta sometimes, even if it's not generating the same quality of code in the beginning as we would generate if we were to do this manually, but just like sticking to it, and trusting that these things will get better. So it's better for us to start learning how to use all these technologies right now, so that when, it hits like, the best kind of quality, we are ready and we're not starting from scratch. So that was, I think, the initial phase. And then I'd say it started picking up steam when, the first like non-engineers started using these tools for more than just editing copy. That's what everybody did, right? In the beginning, you just throw it in there and be like, oh, make this more concise, blah, 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 right? And I mean, I would love to claim that the product team was at the forefront here, but, for the purpose of this podcast, let me just claim that okay. My team was one of the teams. Let me put it like that, right? One of the teams just, venturing into code. So for my team, it was an explicit objective last year. I think in Q2 last year, I was talking to my team and said, hey, by the end of Q3, so last year, Q3, we should have shipped one feature end to end. I don't care like how complex it is. Like, let's just make it happen. And then that set us on this entire journey of, all right, so where is the source code exactly? And how do we get this on our machines? How do we set up our machines so that we can run, the web locally, our iOS app locally, the Android app locally? And yeah, it was like, it was a struggle because we're a very like document heavy company because we're remote. So we have a lot of evergreen documentations about how to install stuff, how to set up stuff, etc. So luckily we did have, like a baseline instructions for all the platforms. but they were written for engineers, by engineers for engineers, right? So it was just a massive struggle taking those instructions and be like, all right, so what exactly is this? And, using ChatGPT to decipher what exactly this means and getting lost in the terminal. And it was just, and keys, etc. We needed access to.
What is a key? Yeah.
Yeah, luckily that we knew, but there were definitely things where we're like, oh, okay, so what? So yeah, we went through that entire process and then just rewriting those instructions for dummies. That's what we called it. It was just like how to install Todoist Web on your local machine for dummies. Do this. If the thing says this, it means this. So it's just. We just broke it down into terms that we understood with the idea that anybody could read through that instruction and then do that for themselves. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think now like our instruction is the official instruction because even the engineers had to admit that, yeah, it makes a bit more sense. So yeah, that's how we started, we had one simple goal, which was let's launch a feature end to end by the end of Q3 and then work backwards. What do we need? Oh, we need to install these things locally. How do we make that happen? And then, learning how to use these tools to actually manipulate code and then realizing things like, context management. How do you deal with that? Or things like, oh, I told the agent to do this thing and it didn't do the thing. What happened? Oh, you need to reboot the server and do this, so it was an entire learning experience. And we also share as a team, like we shared that entire experience also to other non-engineers, via Looms and videos, just showing that, hey, if you want, you can do this. Look, we can do it. So you can do this as well. And I have to say, like, our engineering counterparts were such massive supporters, of this entire thing. It could have been very easy for them to block us and be like, no, it's our turf. You guys, stick to PRDs and specs and slides.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want you messing around in our code base. But no, they were like, and that's also kudos to our CTO who was just supportive of this entire change. And like the entire CXO team just being like very forward thinking and very supportive of let's try. And if it breaks, we'll find a way to fix it. So we went through that transition and the result being the post that you saw, where it was like, yeah, we actually did it. And I think it was even ahead of time. So yeah, that was the whole, I would say like that was a pivotal moment because people started to realize that, oh, wait, hold on. So I can actually do that. That's kind of cool. Like, teach me how to do this.
Nice.
And then.
Super nice.
Yeah. And then, it just started to, it just started to grow. So I've got PMs in my team that are raising back-end PRs. Like front-end stuff is almost trivial. Like people, they see something and they want to change stuff. Just go in, use Cloco, Cursor, or, Codex, whatever your poison is. And then, yeah, you just, prompts and we raise PRs. The engineers review our PRs, give us like great feedback that this is way too complicated or this PR is way too big. You need to create smaller PR. So we're learning as we're going, which is also great. And it's very motivating, to have counterparts in engineering who are just like, yes, awesome. You can do this.
Which is not
like,
normal,
yes,
right? So I hear from others that in some organizations, the engineers are not only saying, no, it's a bubble, we will not adopt it, but then also preventing others to try it out. Or also in some other organizations who are in the middle of this, some of them said that their engineers find it really good for themselves, but they don't want anyone else to mess in their code, right? So they mess in their code base.
Yeah.
And so this is really nice to hear, like how supportive engineers can actually be the lever to help everyone else in the organization. This is so cool.
No, I feel very fortunate. Maybe the last piece, to say where we are now is obviously there was, a lot of thought leadership happening around non-engineers using, especially Claude Code to do stuff. 12 months ago, everybody was using Lovable. It seems like nobody's using Lovable anymore, and everybody's running Claude Code, and who knows what will happen in the next 12 months. But, this, say, more widespread adoption happened through, what's just happening, in our little bubble on LinkedIn, but then also internally, just more and more non-devs sharing what they're doing. And I think it's so crucial that, it's one thing for an engineer to explain to a non-engineer what they are doing with AI. It's a completely different thing if you see a non-engineer do some crazy, hopefully important, work that is outside of their domain, but they, and then they explain it. It's not an engineer explaining it on their behalf. It's like, I did this thing and I'm going to explain how I did it, the struggles that I had. And it's way more relatable, and, that just fuels more, or, invites more participation. And I would say the second pivotal moment for us was, having like an explicit AI leverage initiative for this year. It's been head by our CTO, and the goal is really to figure out for every function at Doist, what does your work look like if you're leveraged to the max, with AI. So that's also a forcing function for every team to, do your workshop or whatever, and then just find out like, okay, what can we do? Where can we push the boundaries? What education do we need? Etc. And we're currently like beta testing this thing that we call Doist OS. You know how seemingly everybody has their own personal assistant, whether it's your Claude bots or whatever. I think while that is great for individual leverage, you're still not solving for the entire end-to-end process, right? Because especially when you work in product, it's no solo show. You're working as a team. So if one of 6 is highly leveraged, it doesn't really change the overall performance of the team. So we're having this Doist OS thing that we're currently running. And the idea is pretty simple. It's a GitHub repository, similar like a personal assistant, but it's a GitHub repository, and it has all the context architecture around helping you work better within Doist, right? So as an employee, you can download the repository, you run your favorite agent in the terminal or, in the desktop. And then whilst you're working in that directory, it hooks up to everything, the strategy, the vision, how we run performance reviews. So it's like pre-configured, right? And then that allows you to almost like automate stuff on the fly. And it's quite interesting to see.
That sounds quite abstract. Can you give me an example?
So for instance, how there's this thing called skills, right? You can create skills that are almost like mini agents doing things.
Yeah, on Claude Code, yeah.
Yes, for instance, exactly. So because we now have this common workspace, if you create a skill, for instance, to compile your weekly snippet. So we have one of our rituals is every Monday you create a weekly snippet. It's almost like a daily stand-up, but we do it at a weekly cadence. And then you say, what did you achieve last week? What are your plans for this week? Are there any risks and blockers? And given that, we're so comms and doc heavy, you can tell an LLM to go and fetch all that information and then, put it in the right format and then post it internally on Twist. So somebody wrote a skill for that does exactly that. They add it to this shared repository, and from that moment on, every individual, every Doister has that skill ready, available for them. Compared to if you just do your own personal thing, all your skills are just like in your own repository and you're just leveraging yourself. If you have this common shared playground, every single skill you add is made available to everyone, right? And
that's a great idea. So basically, as an organization, to have a shared space where you can help each other to work better, whatever that means, more efficient, more effective, whatever, through a shared a system created together through shared capabilities that everybody wrote maybe or set up for themselves and then made it available for everyone else.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's cool.
So
That's
yeah,
a really
I think
cool
that's
idea. It's the first
I'll
time I
seal that
hear
pitch.
about that. And you call it what? Doist OS?
Yeah, Doist is
Cool.
the
That was really nice. Which brings me to the point of ways of working. So that's something that I ask every person that I talk to, and you mentioned it here and there, and I'm very curious about that part as well. So you mentioned the specific roles, as in how product managers now work, how engineers now work. How do you work together now? In which way did it change the way you work? In which way, or what has stayed the same as before? Who is working in which way, and what are the benefits, especially for you as a head of product, or in general management teams, C-level or mid-level management teams? What is the benefit, and at the same time also the challenges now that you see? What went maybe wrong, and you had to fix it because it didn't really serve your purpose, maybe as the leadership people. Everybody can have fun, but if it doesn't deliver on things that we are trying to meet, then it's like, meh.
Yeah, good questions. So maybe let's start with what has stayed the same from a product perspective or product management perspective. Let's start from an organizational perspective, right? If you're a for-profit company, the game is still the same thing, right? You're trying to create services, products, and then make money, and then do that as often as possible in a way that is ethical and
Sustainable,
sustainable, good for everyone, etc. So that means we still need to understand customers, understand trends, the market, and then, take all of that and sprinkle in some unpredictability and some special sauce, and then create products that stand out enough so that you can make a living, you can thrive as a company, and, do all the things that you need to do to achieve your mission. So I think that hasn't changed, and probably also will not change unless we start selling to agents and, robots are creating products for robots. And then maybe that's a whole different conversation.
In 10 years, why not?
Who knows, right?
No, yeah.
So I think, viewing it through that lens, that means you still need parts of the organization that sell your products. You still need parts of the org that create those products, that, market to customers, that support customers in using your product. So I think all of these, like, jobs, not as in job titles, but in, like, things that you need to do as an organization, they still exist.
Job to be done, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Job to be done. Those still exist.
Tasks.
I think what is changing is I think people are now more fluid in venturing into all these different jobs to be done at a company level. Whereas maybe before, if you're a PM, it's a pretty, I would say like pretty defined scope, right? You're prioritizing the things that you need to work on, and then you help lead a team to achieve those things. And then if you're a marketer, you're sort of doing your marketing thing. But I think AI has just sort of compressed some of these roles and, are making the lines like very, very blurry. So designers think they don't need PMs. I'm not saying at Doist, right? At other places, designers think they don't need PMs because a PM is now just a claw code skill. PMs think, yeah, why do I need designers? A designer is now just a MCP connection to Figma. Why do I need Figma? I'll just, why? Customer support are thinking, why do I need all of you? Like, we are the ones getting the tickets. I'll just route the ticket to my agent and, be done with it. And the CEO is like, why do I need all of you? I just need agents to, again, not at Doist, right? I heard it from a friend. And I think that's actually I think that's actually healthy because everybody is questioning the status quo, because it's clear that we now have tools that probably need a different setup to really be, for you to be able to fully utilize the power of those tools. So that is changing. I don't know what the future will hold, but it feels like there's going to be more emphasis on, like, what can you provide as an employee or as a leader versus the job title that you have. There's like different theses that people have, from we'll all be generalists with tools to no, nothing is going to change, and we're just going to use AI to deepen our knowledge in our particular, role. And I think depending on the company, like both can work, right? It kind of depends what your mission is and your goals are. And
How is it at Doist?
we're still
How
figuring
do they
stuff out,
work?
right?
Okay.
I think we're still figuring stuff out. We still have roles and, job descriptions. But for instance, we have one unified career growth ladder, across all roles. So we don't have, there's not like a PM career ladder and an engineering career ladder. It's just like one, right? And expectations are defined per role level. And then it's up to the manager to, either translate that to your particular function that you lead. But yeah, if you're an IC5 or an IC3, that's it. You're a PM IC3 or a customer support IC3, but it's all based on the same sort of career framework. And yeah, prior to that, we had a framework for every single role, right? Different definitions for different levels. So now it's just one thing. And that's what we use across all the different functions.
And is it because of AI changed this, what you said, as in now it's not about the function anymore. It's more about which skill you bring in, which job you can get done. With the goal to ship something that's good for customers and business. Is it because of that? Now you're seeing everybody is a equal thing, or?
It's actually something that we started before the AI tsunami. But yeah, we did have conversations around like the potential future of, AI impacting these different roles. But I would say at least half of the reason was that our existing system was just way too complicated for such a small company. Way too many role definitions, just so much overhead. So flattening that, also enabled us to do, how some career ladders, especially as an individual contributor, it just ends at a certain level, right? And if you want to progress, you need to do management and those kinds of things. And for us, it was pretty clear that there's no distinction between, like, if you want to progress, earn more money, get more responsibility, you don't have to be a manager, right? You can continue on your IC path and reach super high levels as you could if you are leading. And that was also part of the motivation to streamline and simplify the career framework, right? So that you can tell people, you want to be an IC, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
There's no limit to what you can achieve as an IC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see. There's,
yeah. Okay. I understand.
Lots to be explored.
Getting back to the ways of working thing, could you walk me through an example of how engineers, product and design work now that you have AI stuff? I understand that PMs can also ship end to end, I guess designers as well. Now we have these streams, right? So we have those individuals who can ship something by themselves, and then we still have the teams, I guess. So how do the teams work now? Maybe you can also walk me through like very step by step, like this is what happens, and then this and this, and then this is how they work to get it done. Something.
So the main skeleton hasn't changed. We follow pretty boring process of, I think someone might call it the double diamond or discovery and delivery, or I haven't been keeping up with the terminology, but
figuring
something
out
along
what to
those
build
lines.
And then build it.
Exactly. You're shaping the product and you're shipping the product. That's sort of the two things that we do, right? So that hasn't fundamentally changed. I would say the roles are also pretty much the same. So the PM is, heavily involved in the shaping part, just figuring out, prioritizing things, and then also, leading the squads through delivery. Designers, same thing. Engineers, mostly in the delivery side with support in the discovery thing. Those mechanics, they haven't fundamentally changed. I think what has changed is we can do certain things, tasks within those different phases a lot quicker, like synthesizing research or data with all the pros and cons, right? With all of these compressing techniques. But just like doing the individual thing better, more thorough or quicker, that has changed, meaning that, you can decide a lot quicker. You can move faster. We work, for instance, in quarterly sprints, and then, with out of office, time off, etc., you don't really always have 12 weeks. It's more like 10 weeks, together. So things that might have taken you 1 week or 1.5 weeks to get prepared, you can do it in a day or half a day or in a couple of hours, right? So you gain more time in doing the thing that you actually need to do rather than spending time on collecting data or, things like that, or writing specs, So that's like one aspect that has changed. Similarly, for designers, they still use Figma for static prototyping, but then more and more are using AI, like different. I just realized that every designer has their own set of tools at Doist. Not everybody's using the same thing.
Okay.
Some have like very quirky tools for, transitions and animation. So they prototype stuff there, and then they generate the code that is needed to replicate the animation, and then that goes to the developer, and then the developer takes it as like the baseline and tweaks it and adopts it to, something that's more production ready. Or PM, like there's a lot of like visual prototyping happening at this stage, way more than before, whether it's, it used to be more like lovable replicate kind, but now most designers have, so all PMs have everything locally installed, and I think most designers as well. So there's a lot more prototyping potentially happening in the app itself, right? So rather than me replicating the UI in some random, tool, I just go into the source code, I do the thing, and then I can make that part of the spec, explaining exactly how I think this thing could work. So that has definitely changed. It's
so
not
basically
only
they write the code in the actual product on a development environment on their own machines, basically, and then they pass that on. Okay,
exactly. It always depends on what exactly that you're trying to communicate. So we now have way more tools to pick the right one based on what we're trying to get across. So that has definitely changed, right? It's no more I just write a spec and then I hope other people will figure out what I mean. And then, we go back and forth on designs. So everybody can express themselves in the way that they need to express themselves to get their point across. I think that has definitely changed, how product engineering and design collaborate. There's also a lot more, things like, say you're working on a feature, right? And then whilst you're shaping this new iteration of the feature, you realize that there's actually a bug in the existing feature, right? You just, randomly, you're like, oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. Like before, you would open up a GitHub ticket, you would assign it to a developer. And now it's like, oh, wait, hold on. Let me just fix the bug myself. So I think it just gives every single squad member, the agency to be like, well, if the copy is wrong, you can just go in and fix it. If this thing is, has a bug in like the way it processes data, you can go ahead and fix it, right? So I think there's a lot of, say, low-hanging bugs that now more people can fix, which means developers don't get bogged down with random stuff, right? They can focus on the big things that need, like really thinking hard about the architecture and composing the code, etc. So yeah, it has, I would say that there's a lot more, like TLDR, I think there's a lot more fluidity in terms of doing the actual part in the product itself, right? Whether that is used in the shaping phase or in actual, in delivering. So like another example, just this morning in the squad that I'm working with, we're talking about, making our, like all the features that you can use in the UI, just making sure that everything is accessible via API, MCP, and our command line interface tools, right? Which that's like a whole new thing now, where you need to be up to date on those things, because if the agents can't use your tools, you're pretty much out of the picture, right? So making that like a P1 is now super important. So we're having this conversation and, just like sense checking, okay, which of these features that we're currently working on don't yet have CLI support or don't yet have, a public facing API. And then we had like 3 or 4 things and, I created those tasks, assigned them to our backend dev, and then our product designers, shout out to Luis, he was like, hey, so what can I jump in? Can I like do the CLI thing? And then
Cool.
one of our customer support members, because every product squad has a customer support rep, integrated. He also jumped in and was like, "Ooh, this sounds cool. Like, can I also jump in?" And then the backend dev who I initially assigned the task to was like, "This is awesome. So, let's figure out a way to, help more people in the squad, like do these kinds of things." So yeah, it's like every week, something new happens where I just go like, I really love my team, because it's everybody's just so supportive and it's cheering each other on. And I think it's just so important if you want to grow, not only as a team, but as an org, in these weird times where every single day the game might change fundamentally. Like there's no one single person at the company that goes, I know everything, and we're going to do A, B, C, and D, and then we'll be successful. It's more like, what is A today? And then tomorrow, so what is A again? Right? So every day is like, you're recalibrating, like, what is the first step again? So yeah, I think just having more people feeling like they can do stuff and, they have the permission to do the thing is just, yeah, that is, I'm not even sure I'm answering your question, but I think that is also like a big cultural change that you can see compared to maybe 12 months ago.
And so what I'm hearing is that if you, as a leader or as the leadership team, let's say, if you want to help the whole organization to adopt this technology, then it's a lot about giving trust, making the space for trying things out. It's about learning by doing, but also being the role model as the leader yourself and showing that you do it as well. It's about making sure everybody understands that it's okay when a fuck up happens. We'll figure out a way to fix it. It's about supporting each other. It's about elevating each other and not downplaying, but like upplaying, like kind of. This is what I find very interesting in our conversation is I had 3 conversations before, and all of them were describing how explicitly their team works now, like with really, really examples like, look, now I, as the product manager, write the spec in linear, and then I asked my agent to just pick the specs and write it, and then it writes something, and when I'm done, I push it to the engineer reviews and tells me what I should do with it, right? And your point is like, yes, these things can happen and they will happen, but they will only happen when we give them the space to find out how to work with these tools and find out how a new way of working can emerge without thinking about it. That's what I get. Like, it's not about designing a way of working. It's not about saying, now you have to work like this, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, but more like letting it emerge from playing with it and seeing what the best way can be. That's what I hear from what you described so far.
I think our CEO would be very happy with that summary. No, I think, yeah. No, I think it's a great summary. And, hearing it from you also makes me a bit nervous because like classic leadership has no place for playing with stuff and figuring out without a plan, right? That feels like very anti-leadership thing, right? Because a leader, points to the vision and then
has to have the answers,
helps you get there.
Yeah.
So, I think all of these classic like definitions of leading, they all sort of fall apart in these times where every day everything changes. And yeah, I fully agree with what you said. Like you need to, I think the best way is to see every single employee at the company as an innovator, right? And they now have like every single individual with an idea now has the means to turn that idea into a reality, right? So it's no more constrained to the product people and the designers and the engineers, like every freaking person, right? Like I think of all the customer success teams in the world, they have the highest touch points and the most frequent touch points with the actual customers. They know what the customers want. They know why deals are not being made. They know why churn is happening. So imagine you can enable every single person with the right tools so that they can actually act on those things, either independently with, enough guidance. I think guidance is still needed, but they can act, right? Rather than create a ticket, get back to the customer who's super frustrated and be like, oh, I shared it with the team.
Maybe it's going to take like weeks.
Exactly. And then nothing
happens. Maybe it never comes.
Right?
Yeah.
Nothing happens. So I think from that perspective, you still need to design, right, and lead and guide. But I feel like it's like beyond just the people who are closest to the code, because those people, like they have a high, like they will figure it out, right? That's why you go into product, because you just like tinkering with stuff, playing with tools, and trying to find stuff out. But I think the further you are away from, say, core product work, maybe the less obvious it is to you as an individual that you actually have agency now, and you can do stuff, and it's no more go to the product ivory tower and be like, oh, please, can you add this to your roadmap?
Which brings me to the point that it might also end up having lots of stuff in the product that shouldn't be there, no?
I was about to say exactly that. So I got pulled into a PR about a change in, some feature. And it actually raised a couple of interesting conversations, around, so we as a product team, like we're still accountable for the success, at a customer and at the business level. So in this new world where you have 110 people equipped with GitHub source code and Claude code and can potentially do good, bad, and ugly things. Yeah. How do we, what does it mean for us as a product team, in our job and what we are accountable for? So we're thinking of things like, so rather than blocking, it's more like, what is the structure that we need to give? What is the guidance that we need to provide so that we can direct that energy that is building up into, say the right lanes, rather than having nervously scattered energy all over the place. So for instance, one idea that we're currently discussing is like a pre-vetted backlog of non-trivial, from trivial to non-trivial stuff, right? Most of the times you have these things in your backlog that are strategically not important, but everybody in the company knows no, actually, it is important that we fix this, but also it's not going to help move the quarterly needle. So, by providing, I think this pre-vetted backlog, we can then say, hey, you want to do something, pick anything from this list, right? Don't just randomly do stuff, but anything that you pick from this list, fair game, do whatever you need to do, try out all these different tools. So yeah, that's something we're currently building up, and hopefully, in a couple of months, there's more positive things to report.
Cool. So basically one backlog for the really strategic stuff that is important, and one backlog for, hey, these things, we know that they're important, but right now that they are not a priority. So if you want to contribute, take any of these, help us shape the product and make it great. By solving these. Cool. That's nice. That's a great idea. I have two more questions, and I am looking at the time. So let's see how we can handle that. One question is, we have already kind of gotten into it. It's the question of what are the main benefits, but also disadvantages of how you work now, you or maybe not disadvantages, but new questions that came up now, right? So to give an example, I hear all the time, oh, it's so great with the productivity gain again, as you also mentioned, the individual stuff gotten faster. But then at the same time, two of those three people mentioned, well, yeah, we're faster, engineers are faster in coding, but now we have the bottleneck of reviewing. Now we're figuring out how to solve this bottleneck. So it became a zero-sum game for us with the productivity game, because what we gained there, we lost over there kind of thing, for example. Another one said something like, well, now the PMs are heavily under pressure to figure out fast what to build next. And this is our new bottleneck now, for example. From an ROI perspective and from benefits and gains versus new challenges that popped up, what is it that you would describe how it is for Doist? And my very last question that I ask every single person is the lessons learned. If you were advising, I have to read it because it's a brilliant sentence that I put up here. So I have to read it. If you were advising a peer starting today, what are the biggest learnings that you'd share with them? Positive, negative, whatever, like don't do this in a different way, whatever. So these are the two questions.
All right. ROI first. I don't think so. We don't track any metrics at the moment. So it's more like gut feeling. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's ROI neutral. There's I definitely agree that there's shifts happening from like engineers doing way more PRs or like just reviewing code, teaching others how to improve their code because there's just more people contributing. But I also think, and this is taken from our CTO, that you can probably fix a lot of these things with a combination of just educating other people, like what, good code looks like. But then also improving your harnesses around, your coding infrastructure so that bad code doesn't even reach the person who needs to review your stuff, right? Is the system already telling you this PR is way too big or, this thing, like have a look at these things. So yeah, there's still some improvements and some gains that we haven't, looked into yet. The PM bottleneck.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say you don't measure anything because that's also very interesting, right? I didn't ask the question, but like as in how do you measure success of all the things that you're doing? And you just mentioned you don't measure anything. That's also very interesting. You can...
well, in terms of like AI adoption or, like anything AI related, I think one of the reasons we're not measuring, at least for now, is because it's just so ingrained in the culture, right? As I said, 10 years ago, Amir said, AI is going to be crucial for us. So now nobody measures stuff. It's just like, yeah, it is. So therefore we do. No.
Okay, cool.
There's no
like
holding back and yeah. So yeah, bottlenecks, PM bottlenecks. I can't say yet. It doesn't feel like our job has fundamentally like changed. I feel like we're always under pressure to like feed the beast, right? So that doesn't feel like a new thing to me. One thing that does I would say very similar as well. We're just trying to figure out ways to, improve our ways of working. So we haven't like hit the limit yet where we go, we've maxed out everything. And now, this is clearly a new bottleneck. It's sort of shifting, shifting around and we improve something here and then the bottleneck shifts over there and then we improve something here.
Got it. Yeah.
So one thing though that has changed is there's definitely just like more stuff, right? People are creating more nuanced replies on twists, almost essays in some way. So, there's like just more stuff that you need to keep up with. So you're using AI to generate content and then you're using AI to summarize the content. So it's this weird game that's happening where it's just like faster and faster, right? Because everything can be made quicker than before, so therefore you have more time to make even more stuff quicker than before. So
right,
you just
Sounds
you
exhausting.
don't do this one thing super quick in 1 hour and then just do nothing for the rest of the week, right? You don't. So
yeah.
I think we're still, all of us are still figuring out what that AI fatigue looks like. And I'll sneak in an answer to the Wiki question because you had a question about treating source code as a wiki. So this was an idea that came from an interaction with a customer support squad member. They were like asking stuff about, this customer said when they click this and this and this, the system acts like this. Is this a bug or intentional? And I was like, all right, I told every squad member, like nobody answer anything. And then we went into the separate conversation, just highlighting, all right, so what you'll do is you get yourself a GitHub account, you get the source code, and then get yourself a $20 Claude Code, account, open up Claude Code in the source code, and then the question you asked me, just dump that into the terminal and then see what happens. So we had this really interesting, play by play where he would do the thing and then he would report back and be like, all right, so Claude Code says this. This is kind of weird. And then I would look at the prompt and be like, yeah, but you can't ask Claude Code whether it's a bug, because Claude Code or any agent, they're very neutral and objective,
judge,
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. They would so you need to ask it, how does it work? And then you as the human make the call whether this is intended behavior or not. So now that individual has now shared this technique with others, right? So he is taking that technique into the customer success team, into the customer support team. And now everybody is just viewing the source code as a wiki, and your tool to querying the wiki is your agent.
Nice.
You have a question about something, just dump it in there. Yeah. All right. So just wanted to sneak that in because I thought it was a loose
Otherwise,
end.
I would have asked after the
So the next one is lessons learned, right?
Yes, and that's the very last question. What are your lessons learned if you had to advise a friend how to bring AI into their company and in a sustainable way?
So I would say they should watch this podcast and rewind maybe 10 minutes. I think your summary was just perfect, about really leaning into the benefits, right? So treating approaching this from a perspective of every individual who A is curious, B knows how to ask good questions, and, C is somebody with ideas. I think those are like prime prerequisites to be, for that person to be 10x through something like an AI agent, right? So just leaning into that and trusting that people actually want to do better and want to help out and want to do the best kind of work. And then trying to figure out, okay, how do we enable all non-engineers? The engineers will take care of themselves. And if you're an engineer and you're not taking care of yourself, I think you'll be in trouble. So that's just for my engineering friends.
Hot take.
But for every... Yeah, I'm not sure that it's even hot.
I share the view.
You cannot resist, this change. So I would focus on the non-engineers and, find out ways to, also tell people that if you have those three qualities, you are in a prime condition to do things that you've never been able to do before. And here are the tools and the new things that you need to learn, and give them space to explore, give them space to, as you said, like fuck up, right? Build harnesses and systems around, your agentic workflow so that the quality is automatically raised to a bare minimum. And then just prepare yourself to be amazed every single day, because it starts like a domino thing, right? One person does a thing, they share it with others, that person gets motivated, shares it with two other people in the company. And before you know it, people are doing like some crazy, innovative, stuff that then inspires you again to, up your game and then, help contribute. So yeah, that's my rambly advice for people.
Thank you very, very much, Dominique. It was very, very fresh perspective. I really appreciate all the examples, especially for non-engineers. I agree with you. I share the view that probably engineers will figure it out or already have a path. Like for them, the path has cleared somehow. But for the non-engineers, it's still a bit blurry. And this helps a lot to think in different use cases and also how to make sure this space is there. I guess everybody who wants to know more details and exchange, they can reach out to you. What's the best way?
I'm on X. I think LinkedIn would be probably the best way if they want to reach out, and happy to answer any questions.
Then I will link your LinkedIn profile to the article that goes out with this, and then to the YouTube description, I think, or in general video description. Thank you very, very much, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.